The darkness grew thicker as Adoma moved deeper into the forest, the air turning colder with every step. The whispers surrounded her, echoing in her mind, guiding her, urging her forward. She could barely see the path beneath her feet, her eyes struggling to adjust to the pitch-black night. The forest seemed alive, the trees shifting, their branches reaching out like skeletal fingers, and the shadows danced around her, as if mocking her courage. Adoma's heart pounded, her breaths coming in shallow gasps as she pressed on, her feet moving of their own accord. The stranger was nowhere to be seen, but she could feel his presence, a cold, haunting force that pulled her deeper into the darkness. She had made her choice, and now there was no turning back. Suddenly, the whispers stopped, and the forest fell silent. The air was heavy, the silence oppressive, and Adoma felt a chill run down her spine. She came to a small clearing, the ground covered in thick, damp moss, the trees forming a dense wall around her. In the center of the clearing stood a stone altar, its surface smooth and cold, reflecting the faint glow of the stars above. Adoma hesitated, her eyes fixed on the altar, her heart pounding in her chest. She knew this was it, the place where her fate would be decided. She took a deep breath, her hands trembling as she stepped closer, her eyes scanning the shadows for any sign of the stranger. The clearing was empty, the silence deafening, and for a moment Adoma felt a wave of fear wash over her. Was she alone? Had she been abandoned to face this trial on her own? But then she felt it, a cold breeze that seemed to sweep through the clearing, the air growing colder, the shadows shifting. The stranger appeared, his form materializing from the darkness, his eyes glowing faintly as he looked at her. He moved slowly, his steps deliberate, and Adoma felt her heart tighten in her chest as he approached the altar. "You have come, Adoma," he said, his voice barely more than a whisper, yet it seemed to echo through the clearing. "You have made your choice. But now, you must prove your worth. The darkness will not be lifted without a price." Adoma swallowed hard, her body trembling as she nodded. She stepped closer to the altar, her eyes never leaving the stranger's. "I am ready," she said, her voice steady despite the fear that gripped her. "I will do whatever it takes." The stranger's eyes softened, and he nodded, his gaze holding hers. "Then step forward, Adoma," he said, his voice filled with a quiet sadness. "Place your hands on the altar, and let the shadows judge you." Adoma hesitated for a moment, her eyes flicking to the altar. The stone was cold, the air around it thick with an energy that seemed to pulse and shift. She took a deep breath, her heart pounding in her chest as she stepped forward, her hands trembling as she reached out and placed them on the smooth surface of the stone. The moment her hands touched the altar, a chill shot through her body, her breath catching in her throat. The shadows seemed to come alive, swirling around her, their forms shifting and changing, whispering in a language she couldn't understand. Adoma closed her eyes, her heart pounding, her body trembling as the darkness closed in around her, the whispers growing louder, filling her mind. Suddenly, she felt a force pull at her, her body lifting from the ground, her feet leaving the earth as she was enveloped by the shadows. The darkness surrounded her, cold and relentless, the whispers echoing in her ears, and Adoma felt her heart clench with fear. She could feel the weight of the curse, the pain and suffering of her people, the fear that had gripped them for so long. It was overwhelming, crushing, and for a moment, Adoma thought she might not survive. But then, something changed. The whispers grew softer, the shadows shifting, their forms fading. Adoma felt warmth, a light, faint at first, but growing stronger, pushing back the darkness. She opened her eyes, her breath catching as she saw the faint glow of the moon, its light breaking through the canopy above, shining down on her, illuminating the clearing. The shadows retreated, their forms dissolving into the night, and Adoma felt her feet touch the ground once more. She stumbled, her body weak, her heart pounding, but she remained standing, her eyes fixed on the moon above. The stranger stood before her, his eyes filled with something she couldn't quite place, pride, sorrow, and a hint of relief. "You have faced the darkness, Adoma," he said, his voice soft. You have proven your worth. The curse is lifted, but your journey is not yet over. Adoma looked at him, her body trembling, her heart filled with a mix of emotions, fear, relief, and determination. She had done it. She had faced the darkness, and she had survived. But she knew the stranger was right. This was not the end. There was still more to be done, still more to understand. The stranger stepped back, his form beginning to fade, the shadows closing in around him. "Remember, Adoma," he said, his voice a whisper on the wind. "The light may return, but the darkness is never truly gone. It will always be there, waiting. Be strong, and never forget what you have learned here tonight." And with that, he was gone, his form dissolving into the night, leaving Adoma standing alone in the clearing. She looked up at the sky, the moon shining brightly above, its light bathing the forest in a soft, silvery glow. For the first time in 20 years, the moon had returned to Kwaku, its light breaking through the darkness that had held the village captive for so long. Adoma took a deep breath, her heart filled with hope. She had faced the darkness, and she had survived. And now, it was time to bring that light back to her people.